Greetings, brothers and sisters. I'm Professor Spira.
And I'm Brother Air.
And welcome to the Children of the Sun Breathairean Ensemble Concert Commentary. And this is our 8-year anniversary of the what's become somewhat famous concert of that we did. And this was really kind of signifies the true formation or the solidification of the Breathairean Ensemble, which is an all-vegetarian group whose most of the members practice a Mucusless Diet Healing System. And so we sort of, well, Brother Air, why don't you tell them the quick story of how the Breathairean Ensemble kind of emerged?
Well, Breathairean Ensemble came out of a gigging band, which I think Professor Spira had a gig.
Yeah, University of Cincinnati. Yeah, it was at the.
And so, he kind of came to me and asked me to, about some musicians who should we get. So we went down the line and we ended up getting some guys to do this 6-week gig. That was a good opportunity to get Eddie Brookshire, his Uncle Eddie,
right,
on in the band. But that was a good opportunity for us to kind of meet him. And I had been told for years that he was the cat that I wanted to deal with, but I never had a chance to call him up because I didn't just want to call him up. I was so gun shy about musicians here, just being in Cincinnati and calling people up to just play. That was just not done. It was like nobody was into just playing. It was right. Always about a gig or something. Right. So I just never really dealt with the musicians around here, the jazz musicians. None of them. We just never vibed. Maybe Bruce Menafield was about the only one that I worked with consistently because we vibed, and he was the close. I could say Bruce was the closest attitude that I've ran into, as far as kind of like he wasn't a vegetarian. Or, wasn't into the Mucusless diet, but he had that attitude that the Breathairean Ensemble had about the music.
Right, yeah,
And we pursued that, but we got a chance to get Eddie. Eddie decided he was going to do the gig, so we had a chance to get to know him over 6 weeks. So we did the gig, and the gig was over.
Right.
So most of the band decided, man, let's keep this thing going. And so Eddie was living up in Dayton, which that's about 45 miles. So he would come down every Tuesday, and we just kept rehearsing. It wasn't really predicated on any gigs or anything, but we just liked the music that we were dealing with, because there's no bands in Cincinnati I know of it was trying to deal with the so-called, I hate using the word avant-garde, but just where you can kind of understand the genre of music that we were trying to tap in on, like art ensembles.
Art Ensemble Chicago, Ornette Coleman.
All that kind of stuff. And so we just kept playing and kept rehearsing just because we like getting together every week. Through the talking, everybody was talking, doing those rehearsals, and we would play and we'd talk. And we just really got to know each other, and we found out everybody was vegetarian, which I was really surprised that Eddie was a vegetarian.
Yeah, because the couple people, the couple people, there was a couple other members of that original band, which was called
Yeah, I mean,
BBC
yeah,
Best Band of the City.
yeah, 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 yeah.
And
The two people who didn't stick with
yeah,
that band were the people who wasn't vegetarian.
right,
Now,
right,
the band wasn't about vegetarianism when we put together the band for the gig.
right.
But it was just funny. Just show you how the universe works. The two people that after the gig was over those 6 weeks, the two people that didn't want to
Yeah,
hang
yeah, couldn't hang.
wasn't vegetarian.
Yeah,
And we didn't know Eddie was vegetarian. About a month down the road, we were just rehearsing, and we got to talking, as we usually would do in rehearsal.
yeah, play for an
Yeah,
hour, talk for 2 hours.
yeah, and so that was great. So that's how the Breathairean Ensemble got started. We decided, me and Professor, decided to seize the moment.
Yeah,
That everybody in this band is vegetarian, and now let's put a band together that deals with physiological liberation, music, and we could get all our little issues out,
yeah. It
And
became a vehicle to really
yeah,
express ourselves in our ideas about lifestyle and health through this art form that we we love it. We get it. This is what we play. We talk about it, listen to it, and and so and like we said, it was a blessing to find a group of musicians that even liked to play and explore this kind of music on a
right,
high level, because there is sometimes people can get into this kind of music and they just think it's just noise and messing around when it's not. Like this is some very detailed stuff, and even in this section, there is. It's actually it's rehearsed. It sounds like we're improvising it all together, but there's portions of it that are things that were played. This entire concert was really a tribute concert to our favorite groups and our favorite musicians. So we started off with Sun Ra, then we go into Ornette Coleman, and we go into John Coltrane, and then we get into Art Ensemble Chicago, and we do a couple tunes that they inspired by them, and we might hit the melodies, and then kind of get into it. But yeah, there's sometimes when I'd show people, like, well, look, kind of look at in detail, really analyze like what we're doing musically, you can hear that's like, okay, that's worked out, and
yeah. This was a concert that was it was. I still watch the concert from time to time, and it still stands up, man. I mean, the musicianship, just the vibe was anything that UC had seen. I mean, they hadn't seen anything like that. And
yeah, this takes place at the University of Cincinnati, and this was actually my master's degree in jazz studies, jazz performance, and so this was at the University of Cincinnati, and that's a thing that I have always been passionate about with in terms of schools, has been to use the resources that are available, because I know a lot of people that go to colleges and go to schools, they don't use the resources. There's rooms and there's technology and computer. I mean, there's so much stuff that's available, and there's only a small percentage of people that actually use that stuff. And so I really pushed it to, like, all right, I want the finest. I want everything top notch. I want the best room I can find. I want, it was like spare no expense, and really pushed to get the to get the things that we got here. And
it was a production. I mean, it was a production, and we really looked at it as the real coming out of the Breathairean Ensemble. Like, this was gonna be the show that was gonna, like, let people know that if, like, this band was for real. Like, we were really trying to deal with this music, and And I just don't think there was a lot of things going on. Like everybody in the band was fast, and even Eddie, to a point, I think Eddie made a statement. He said, "Well, I haven't eaten today."
Yeah. That was really a thing for us, was to be fasting. And this was like right when we were starting to get into them long-term fasts. I think you would, the year before this, I think was when you had maybe did the 8.5 month.
Yeah, and that was really important to us before we even played the music. Was we always thought about what would it be like to have cats on the bandstand who have been fasting for like 2 months, 3 months, 4 months. I think I had done like maybe 7 months at that point.
Yeah.
And
I'd been maybe, I think this was in the midst of my, I think this was my first. I'd have to look, because I don't really like keep track in terms of like detail. You know, it's all written down somewhere. But I think I was maybe 3 months in.
Everybody was fast.
Yeah, and then everybody was fast. It's fasting on some level.
I mean, for long periods of time, even Baby Babaji had done like a week or so.
Right.
At that point. And so that's what made the music unique, was that here we had a band of cats who had been fasting. You're talking about real telepathic type of communication. And when you look at the concert, like I say, it held up, man, and it still holds up. And there was a profound message behind. The people at the concert, man, just went nuts, man. I mean, they were. I tell the story about when me and Baby Babaji was getting ready to take the stage at the stage door behind everything, and we were standing there, and the director of the music program, jazz department, came by. He walked and he seen me with all this paint on, you know, with all this face mask, all black, you know. I mean, like, not a face mask, but you know, my face was painted black. Everything on me was black. Baby Babaji had on his piece, and so I never forget. He was so surprised to see that. He was like, "Oh man," he had to get to his seat. He's like, "I'm either gonna have to shut this thing down, or else I'm gonna really enjoy this." I mean, it was that kind of thing. Like he was so surprised to walk up on me. He was like, "Oh, whoa, like, man!" So he didn't know what was gonna happen.
And we
And he just freaked out, and we had a lot of musicians in the audience, man, and we just floored them that night, man. I mean, because it was like the perfect gig, man.
Yeah.
I mean, we touched on, we swung, we funked, we improvisated, we
told a story, man. We introduced a new myth, a new fable to the conversation.
I remember when Quinn, one of the musicians, came up to you and said, "Hey man, where can I get some information on Arrington?"
Right.
And we looked at each other and we said, "Man, I just made that up, man."
Yo, air eater. Yeah.
Arrington,
Air
eater, And so when you listen to that, it's really what was what was the old tale?
Well,
that it was based off.
Well, it's like the what was that?
Oh man, it's my mind. The guy that slept.
Yeah,
the guy that slept.
But
that was what it was.
Well, there's a lot of those, because I was actually, I I was coming at it
Well,
even
that's the
from a
most,
different.
that's the
Yeah, that's the most
known,
famous one. I hadn't even really been into that one. I was into, I forget what I was reading. I was reading some. I was starting to get into real like those ancient kind of texts and myths
Right.
and that kind of stuff, and they were talking about people that would sleep for 50,000 years and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And so, and I was having a lot of conversations about just exploring the origin of humanity, you know, from this mucusless diet perspective, because it totally changes anything that you would learn in a class or anything like that. And so I was really trying to get down into, you know, a lot of historical origin myths and theories are based on some kind of eating process as being the downfall of humankind. You know, so what the mucusless diet sort of does is give you that missing link as to what, like this is actually the key. Like this is something that we can observe right here, that this is totally against nature to eat pus and mucus. And so this had to be the fall, you know.
Yeah. I mean, and the music was, you know, we had rehearsed and things just wasn't going right up until, you know, we rehearsed and we kind of knew what we were going to do, but just things wasn't clicking, you know, like we wanted it to. And I just remember, man, getting there and setting up. If you look at the DVD, you see that the stage, man, we had a lot of equipment.
Yeah.
And that's been our thing, you know, we bought a lot of equipment to shows, you know. We come with a whole kind of a production, you know, kind of theater, kind of, you know, theatrical type of thing. And I think I had
Is this
2 or 3
yeah, it's the
fits.
whole thing, you know, when we, you know, we're inspired by groups like, you know, say Sunrod or Art Ensemble Chicago, but they were inspired by African roots and traditions where there is no separation between music and poetry and drama, and
Right.
you know, it's all
Right.
part of a package.
Right.
You know,
Right.
so we really feel that and
Yeah.
sort of you know, try to pay homage to that tradition.
Yeah, man. And it was and this is one of the probably only times you'll get a chance to ever see Brother Air play tabla.
Yeah,
So,
that was the yeah.
well, you won't get a chance to see that too much.
Yeah, that was
that was something. So yeah, I mean, it was and everybody was playing really good.
Yeah.
You know, I think the consensus after that night was that Ryan really played.
Yeah.
I think I just remember us always talking about Ryan.
Yeah, or Daktehu.
Daktehu, you know, and that he really stood out on that show. Yeah, I mean, it was not that we all didn't play, but he had went into this kind of hypnosis thing, you know, to prepare for the show. And it was unlike anything I had seen. You know, he was just he was just so focused on nailing. I mean, he, you know, you can just see his attitude. Man. You can look at him on stage, man. He's just so focused on what he's trying to do and what he's hearing.
Yeah,
and
to get and the thing is, when you see this kind of thing, it's, you know, we all had a real sort of natural attraction to one another in terms of, you know, musically, and we would play a lot that just to play, you know, that wasn't the rehearsal. Me and Daktehu used to
Right.
almost play every day in his basement or at the university or wherever. We would do a lot of improvisation. We would practice standard jazz theory, or not theory, but jazz tunes and that kind of stuff. Talk about jazz theory. Then was always playing with Brother Air. Started playing out on the street, and I was really interested in that. Brother Air had been playing out on the street, and that was something that I was wanting to get into, because that, I knew that would do something positive to my sound, that gives you an edge, that gives you this quality when you're out there just for hours and hours just playing your instrument, and you watching the people go by and kind of see what people respond to, what they don't. It's an art form in itself. And so I was doing a lot of that with Brother Air, and then we were always, we was getting together all the time doing protests, the music. I mean, it was this period was very intense. This was like,
it was we call it the magic
period. Yeah, the magic where, in the midst of
things were going on that we just could not explain.
Yeah.
And so
and
we're trying to tap back into that.
That's the thing, and
hopefully we'll put some new music together.
We're working on the next thing, and the thing that's interesting about practicing the Mucusless diet, your concept of time changes. You're not. Sometimes you have to take time off and sort of go underground and get yourself together physiologically, because we're all into the physiology first.
Well, this is another thing. This is
a whole other piece. Yeah.
This band is, there's no other band that's put together around the Mucusless Diet Healing System, which is a support mechanism for those trying to practice this.
Right.
So, to take a year off, take 2 years off, is not unusual to what we have learned, because of physiological things that you go through to try to put yourself back together again. So we've just gotten used to it, and now we're coming out of something, and we're going to put some more music together. And people don't understand that. Oh, the band is not together. Oh, the band is always together.
Yeah.
We did a jam session for 4 years when the band wasn't together.
Right.
But that was our way to see everybody every month and to play with each other.
Right.
Every month we would, for 4 years. So, I mean, we always kept the connection, and everybody stayed, diligent.
And what Miles Davis say, he's like, man, it just gotta touch it. He's talking about practicing, it's like you just gotta touch it, and just every day at least touch it, and just kind of that vibe, so that's sort of where we were at, was that vibe that, just touch it and just make sure, he keeps it there while everybody's kind of going through what they're going through.
And at that time, for me, I can tell you what I was going through. I was elevating the street performing thing to like a upper 5-figure deal. Right. I mean, to really break it down, I mean, that's what it was. I mean, it was like I figured out how to make money doing this thing.
Yeah.
And so even though it wasn't anything that took away from the band, because everything was, was happening. The people were going through falls, but it wasn't like me and Baby Babaji was doing this busting, and it had just blew up. I mean, everything we put our hands on was just,
and busking. A busker is a street performer, for people that might not know what that was.
Right, yeah, busking. That's what's called all over the world, busking. And we started doing intense travel at that point. Even before that, but right at that point and afterwards, it was just real intense for us, you know.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, I had things that they were doing.
Yeah.
Eddie
yeah.
had his big band, and he's
Yeah.
always on call anyway because
Right.
he's such a good bass player. And Ryan was going through a piece. Daktehu was going through a piece with. He's kind of torn between the job that he was working, and he was really about the only one that was kind of left out there with I don't think too much to do, because he was totally a band.
Right.
You know, he was, I mean, we were on the road with myself and Professor. We were on the road with African American Latin Jazz Ensemble sometimes.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I mean, so everybody had other things that they were doing too. But Daktehu was just, that's all he was into, was the band.
Right. Right.
And so, you know, things kind of got a little strange, you know, and when you look back on it, you're like, okay. You know, so that's
Yeah, and you know how the story, the story.
The story.
How,
I mean, it was
how the things grow.
What you say, unsung.
Yeah, unsung. And
only thing about our situation is we didn't all end up broke.
Yeah, right. And,
you know, that was, and the band is gonna come back together in a big way. Start putting music back together.
But yeah.
So
now this is actually the fable of Air Eater part here, where I'm kind of doing the history of or telling the story, you know, and I was at this point I was real into sort of just getting my feet wet with studying the history of a kind of African traditions and music, and when I was getting into African folklore and just world kind of myths and religions and things like that, and so that made total sense to me. Is okay, we look at ourselves, or I kind of looked at us as like griots, like the African musicians and sort of.
And that was the
shamans.
first time that the band had heard the dialogue.
Yeah.
Because me and you kind of had mapped out everything in terms of how everything was gonna go.
Yeah.
But we kind of left things to each other as far as, okay, you take care of that.
Right.
Okay, I'll take care of this. Okay. So this is the first time we was hearing the dialogue.
Right.
And it was right on, you know.
Yeah.
It was right on. So,
and
because we didn't know what you were gonna say, you know.
Right.
You know, we had talked, but we kind of said, okay, we're gonna do this, you know.
And to clarify even a little more, like the myth, I say, the black grapes.
Yeah.
And I basically say that as soon as if you're talking about, it was Breathairean Ensemble, right? So we're talking about Breatharians, and if you have people that have never eaten anything before, like humans that had never eaten anything, and then all of a sudden you eat something like who knows what one grape would do.
Right.
And so the concept here
at that point is tragic.
Yeah, that one grape just totally knocks a dude out.
And you mentioned something, man. Maybe we should talk about the Breathairean, how we came up with the name.
Yeah.
I don't remember exactly how we came up with it, but I do remember. I remember us trying to decide on something.
Yeah, we were talking, and you kind of got me hip to just Breathaireanism, in terms of the way that a mucusless diet practitioner might think about it. And so I knew that when we say the word Breathairean, we're not talking about any of the stuff that you would really see on the internet when you go and you look up Wiley Brooks or the woman in Australia, you know, any of that. Like, we're not. That's actually why our Breathairean is spelled differently. I did that on purpose. Like, okay, I'm gonna spell the word differently to not be confused, even though we are. But we know, you know, we're to not be directly confused
because a lot of people don't look at the word as being spelled different.
Right. Yeah. They don't. You know. They don't pick up on it. They attention to detail. You know. But the whole thing is, you know, we're coming at it from this. What art enables you to do in music is to sort of put it in the context of this, you know, of this sort of concept. So some people will take it in different ways. And it doesn't matter because it's the art, you know, it's what we, you know, chose to name the band and, you know, sort of build the mythos around it. And it was just a good name. Yeah. And just a good name
for this band. It was the perfect name for this band.
Yeah. Cause it's like what we aspire to, you know, or,
right. Yeah. Yeah. It was, you know, because there's not too many concerts going on daily in America where cats are fasting for 7 months, another guy fasting for 4 months, another guy fasting for 2 months. You know what I mean? It's not happening all the time.
Yeah. And so
that's been the concept of the band, is to create this what we call it is non-stimulant music.
Yeah.
We seen the we kind of looked at the music as being like stimulant, based on what folks.
Yeah, like that's one way to evaluate music is look at what the musicians were eating. You know, so you start to break it down. Right. Like, you know, like, oh man, that like that sounds kind of like ham and egg. You know, it sounds like brains and egg.
I mean it you know, when you hear that hard pork chop and bacon and egg breakfast type of da-doom da-doom da-doom. I mean, you can actually listen to blues like Muddy Waters and that kind of music, and you can hear what the stomach was about.
Yeah.
That hard boom, 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 you know, real hard thing, you know, vibration. And so we kind of decided that, like, what would it be like to play music that wasn't stimulated by anything? And I mean, it was, you know, that's experimental, because it might not be any different, you know.
Right.
But that was the concept, and it still is the concept, man.
Right.
Non-stimulant music,
because it definitely is all about vibe, and it definitely, you know, in this concert, the vibe is unlike anything I'd seen in other concerts, just as far as like vibe.
Oh man, and
you know?
And people like the art ensemble and them guys really respect what we're doing.
Yeah.
Because I remember going to Chicago, you know the story.
Yeah.
When I just walked in, and it was just to show you how you went up looking for Feynman, didn't know where to go find him. Had his number, lost it. And I said, man, let me go out and try to find the old AACM building. Maybe I can run into him. I go into a music store. And he walks in.
Yeah.
As soon as he sees me, he comes through the front door and he looks, it's like breath air. You know?
Yeah.
It was
wow.
Just, you know, and he was getting ready to leave to go to the Far East that night.
Yeah.
But, you know, we didn't get a chance to really, really hang. But that was something, man. I mean, that was the magic that we talk about.
Yeah.
Go all the way up to Chicago looking for this guy. Didn't have a clue on where to find him. And he walks right in the door.
Yeah,
you know?
Yeah, that's exactly what we talking about, the magic.
All that kind of stuff. Man.
Yeah.
It's just so, and they dig the band, man, and people know about the band, and know what we're trying to do with the band, and it's respected. Now internally in the band, that's another. That's another subject. but all that's going to be worked out.
Yeah. I mean, it's all about the cleansing process, and that's what's going on now. This actual, at one point we had put together a DVD, and that's what this is. Basically, a whole other part of this production process, I had to get people to help me with cameras, and so I got a friend of mine that is a professor in the video department and the professional videographer. He helped, and I think he operated the one on the top, because this sort of has like a two sections. It's like the floor, and then there's, as you can see, there's kind of a thing that goes around the top. And he was up there, and then we had somebody in the back, in the middle, and then someone in the front that was filming. And so I took all three of those, and we had hired another audio engineer professor to professionally record it. So he set up all the sound equipment and that kind of thing. And so
and we can't forget Mr. Gregory Turner sitting like damn near on the stage.
Yeah, that down in the front left, bobbing his head.
I felt like giving him an instrument.
He was really...
Everybody, the audience was sitting, but they was like, that front row's too close. Nobody wants to sit there but Greg, He's like, I'm sitting right here. And so that was something.
But
a great lover of the music and supporter.
Yeah. But this really, like, it took me, I don't know, it was maybe 3 months to edit this, because I basically taught myself how to edit film on this. And so and this became sort of like this real, I mean, I was at this point really possessed, because you almost, when you're working on this kind of video project, anybody that's worked on a video project sort of knows, like, if the editing process, you sort of have to be real possessed. Just like if you're working on a concert, the performance side, it's like some of that same type of energy. And so I was going down almost every day to the University of Cincinnati had a editing studio, and I basically, from the ground up, I learned how it all worked. They had Adobe Premiere Pro, and so I started learning. I learned how everything worked. I had been taking a class in audio engineering, so I knew a little bit about digital performer and that kind of thing. And so there's similar ways that some of these things work. But yeah, I remember I had all three of the video feeds, and the audio, had to sync everything up, and and then I just kind of started editing based on what looked good to me. And so I was sort of, so that kind of became a hobby for me. I kind of enjoy when I have the time. I enjoy video editing things and kind of creating stuff in that way. But it was definitely an intense process. And I remember when we first, I don't know if it was the first time we watched it, but at Northern Kentucky University, where I was a adjunct professor, put it on the big screen in that one room. You remember that?
Oh,
we watched it. That was cool. See it on the big
audio.
screen. With the audio. Yeah, like a movie theater, basically. And so that was cool. And so now this ending part, we have the children of the sun, and we didn't talk too much about that mythos, but that is sort of another added piece. Is basically, if you watch the whole thing, the story goes from, you get the fable of Air Eater, and then Air Eater wakes up and he's like, calls out to the children of the sun, which is his ancestors. That was his brothers and sisters. After 50,000 years now, maybe you could call them his ancestors. And he calls out to them, and they never died. They still living. They never aged. And so they reminded him. And the only reason they were able to get back together is because Air Eater had the gift of song. And that was the only way that he could still relate to his ancestors, the people that he had left behind after he started eating. So he calls out to him, and that's when they come, and they remind him of who he is. They remind him, this is the path back to who you are. And And so that sort of, played out here at the end, and we had the Children of the Sun, and that was another surprise, and we didn't know they was gonna be throwing.
Man. We hired people. I mean, look at the stage, man. We even had a platform where they standing on.
Yeah.
I mean, we picked the concert hall based on what our vision was.
Yeah.
And it was. I wonder what are the Children of the Sun? Are they still in the sun?
Yeah, I think they're still in the sun.
They're still in the sun. Okay. All right. I hope so. I haven't seen the Children of the Sun.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean.
Yeah, there they are.
And that kind of blew people away. They wasn't really expecting that.
No, because they're up there dancing. They got fruit in their hands and the lemon.
Yeah.
And that blew people away. It was like, what is because that just ended it perfectly. Like that just okay. There's nothing anybody can say now. It's just
Yeah, because you gotta love a kid.
Yeah.
This can't be all bad.
And that's always been something that we've made a point, and you can see where we got, we had a child in the band, tried to incorporate children, and that was a big thing for us. Was first of all, jazz, if it's gonna be stay relevant and survive, we got to bring it up out of these nasty bars,
right?
And that kind of thing. Where kids, we complain about kids can't learn about jazz or learn about the music or whatever, or art music in general, and it's like, well, how can they do it if it's in places where you got to be 21 and up to get in?
And it's just an old
thing, an old motto.
It's an old concept that's just so tired now as far as to go hear music. You don't go hear classical music like that,
right?
But it seems like creative music, as we call it, jazz or whatever, is always in the real seedy places.
Yeah.
Because us as a culture of people, we don't assign real value to it.
Man, this part here with the confetti, man, when they because I didn't know about that confetti, and like right about now, boy, I got all these goosebumps. I mean, that, like, as I was totally into that moment, I was like, man, this whole process was like,
I think the confetti was a surprise. Daktehu's girlfriend at the time was helping us with the production, and she kind of cut up all that stuff and told him, okay, throw this out, whenever time, I guess. And we were all kind of surprised, like, oh, that was interesting. So, I mean, I remember stuff being all in my cases for weeks. And drums and stuff. I'd be like, man, what is this now? But yeah, man, it was definitely unforgettable concert.
Yeah. It was, it's the
best concert I ever played.
Yeah.
Best concert
likewise.
ever.
Yeah, it's just such a privilege to be able to do it, pull it off, and it had the vision, had the passion, had the kind of courage to do it, and just did it, and it turned out great, and I can't believe it's been 8 years.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah, man, it was.
It does not feel like it's been 8 years ago.
It was definitely a fun time, man. That period was just so fun, man.
Yeah.
Just to, because myself and Eddie, we're a little older than the rest than everybody else, and just to see young cats like yourself being that inspired to want to play and want to deal with this stuff,
Yeah.
So it was just you know, we were just, you know, like, man, riding on a cloud, man, you know, magic carpet ride. And then to have my son playing there with me and trying to learn the piece, you know, trying to, you know, and having y'all accept him, like, okay, you know, and so I mean, all that was just just a grand old time, man. Hopefully we'll be able to get some of these grand old times again, and you know, and this time the band won't, you know, won't take the kind of hiatus that we took, you know.
We'll get things moving and keep it moving.
So that was we just, you know, if anybody who was involved in this that we haven't thanked, we want to take the time to thank you for this, because there was a lot of people helping us.
There was a lot of support. People helping, did all kinds of things, and
So I mean, it was just a lot of folks responsible, man. A lot of folks responsible for making that show what it was.
Right.
And I've heard people who I've talked to people who've watched the DVD, and I've never had nobody coming to me and say this wasn't happening.
Right.
They were all just blown away.
Right.
Because it was raw. I mean, we didn't have the kind of resources or equipment that you know, the Columbia Records or, you know, CBS Records or some, you know what I mean?
Right. Yeah. No, I mean, this is an example of, you know, using everything that you can everything you can have access to in terms of, you know, I was using a ton of school equipment. We had our own stuff. We had, you know, we was pulling stuff and calling people up like, hey, can we get this? Can we borrow that? You know, and you know, really had put it together. And we always really had went for doing this kind of production thing. You know, a year before this, I did a senior recital, and that was, you know, and that was sort of like a warm up in terms of, you know, and that's something we never released that, probably won't, but that was kind of, you know, it's interesting, you know, really look at the evolution and how long something takes to really get it to that level, you know.
Really, because that was like night and day, that performance versus this performance.
Yeah.
I mean, it was like we really had developed into a band at that point, because we were rehearsing. And another thing, we have to thank Eddie for riding, you know, for driving 45 miles down, 45 miles back, you know, almost 100 miles a day to do these rehearsals consistently. And really appreciate him. He's a cat I love too, you know, in terms of humility and just being a nice person, man.
Yeah.
You know, you kind of plug into that, man. You wanna be a nice person when you get around Eddie, man. It's kind of has that kind of vibe, you know. You know, so that was. Let's just try to make some new music, man.
That's
maybe we can get the magic back.
Time to get the magic back, and you know, and I don't think it really went anywhere. It just changed, you know, and now it's about to.
I think we got the new name for the next DVD. It's time to get the magic back.
Get the magic back.
I think we found the name, you know. The magic's back, you know.
Right.
So, yeah, man. So
So we will go ahead and sign off here, and I would thank y'all for if you still listening and you are a fan. You are,
Yeah.
and I hope that this helped clarify a little bit of where we was coming from. As I know not everybody starts off into kind of the avant-garde jazz kind of stuff, and for us it's like the center of our world, so we get up and we breathe and eat this stuff, and a lot of people don't even know what it is, so we try to kind of give you a little something, to check out, like, give it a chance, check it out, Art Ensemble Chicago, Sun Ra, Ornette Coleman, and see if you can get it. There's a if you still listening to it and you're kind of like, man, just, it's like, I kind of like it, but I don't know what it is, just keep listening. And it's really about one thing that I think Brother Air said to me years ago that's profound about this type of music is it removes obstruction. It removes obstruction from your, your mind, your spirit. Physically, it affects you. And it is something that I've really, that's a whole study in itself, and nobody really talks on that level, in this whole kind of health community and vegan and all this kind of stuff. There's not really a lot of people talking about, like, okay, now we're talking about music, we're not talking about kind of like that meditation, like we do stuff like that's sort of in that meditation vein, but this is a whole other thing. It's a whole different level of removal of obstruction. And because what we found is real constipated people have a hard time listening to that type of music. Right. Because those vibrations irritate somebody that's really encumbered by a lot of pus and mucus. And when you start to remove that stuff and you start to really, really get yourself together at a certain level, some of these types of music can just it can open up your world. You listen to something, just get.
Well, I always tell people to think about what's around you, your environment, and think about the soundtrack of your environment instead of what's on the radio or what's on television. Really think about what you would think music would sound like based on the environment that you live in. Right. And I would guarantee that the music of Ornette or Train would coincide with how you see life. Yeah, no doubt. Instead of some of this Jay-Z or whoever is the flavor of the month type of people, and so and you got to give it a chance. You have to grow up sometime. Right. Yeah. That's just really what it's about. You have to grow up sometime, and this is adult music. This is not steak and potatoes. Yeah, this is not about the not about the sandbox. This is not sandbox music. This is the real deal of trying to through vibration put yourself back together, and use that as a path. Like this is our way of trying to put a trail behind us and on our path and our journey, and to say, okay, well, we leaving as we move forward, we're going to put this music out there, and vibration is more powerful than anything as far as I'm concerned. And so and it's the quality of vibration and the type of vibration, and so people that are supposed to pick up on it will. And all I can say is I really enjoyed putting this together with you, Professor Spira, doing the music and being involved in the last 12 years, and hopefully we make music for many years to come, and hopefully just record it. Yeah, most definitely. Hopefully it recorded properly. So. Yeah. Hopefully this turned out good. Man. So, all right, thank y'all for listening again, and until next time, peace, love, and breath.